Dr. Kim Tae-ho stood at the viewing port of the human transport ship and watched as Nexus Prime grew larger in the distance. The massive space station looked like a giant flower made of metal and glass with petals that stretched out into the darkness of space. Each petal held a different section for the various alien species that would attend the Galactic Medical Conference. This was the first time humans had been invited to join the most important medical gathering in the galaxy. Tae-ho felt proud but also nervous. He knew most alien species looked down on humans as primitive creatures who had barely learned to travel between stars. The invitation had come as a surprise to everyone on Earth. Behind him, Dr. Park Soo-jin was checking their medical equipment for the 10th time. She was the best surgeon Earth had ever produced, and could perform operations that seemed impossible to other humans. Her hands were steady and her mind was sharp, but even she seemed worried about meeting alien doctors who could regrow entire limbs in minutes. Lee Won-sik sat quietly in the corner reading through files on his tablet. He was their field medic and had saved more lives than anyone could count during his years in dangerous places on Earth. He never talked much, but when people were hurt or dying, he became a different person. His calm presence made everyone feel safer. The ship docked at Nexus Prime with a soft thud, and the airlock hissed open. The first thing that hit them was the smell. It was not bad, but it was definitely not human. A mix of ozone and something sweet that made their noses tingle. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth normal, and the air had a blue tint to it. They walked through the entrance hall, and Tae-ho tried not to stare at the aliens around them. A group of tall beings with 4 arms and skin that changed colors walked past without looking at the humans. Their translator devices made clicking sounds as they spoke to each other in their own language. Near the information desk, a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal was having an argument with something that resembled a giant jellyfish floating in the air. The jellyfish was flashing different colors rapidly while the crystal being was making musical sounds that hurt human ears. Soo-jin grabbed Tae-ho's arm and pointed to a group of beings that looked like they were made of shadow. Their bodies seemed to shift and move even when they were standing still, and their eyes glowed like stars in the darkness. One of them turned toward the humans and nodded slightly before floating away. An announcement echoed through the hall in dozens of different languages. The human translator device took a moment to process it before speaking. In English, all species were invited to visit the main exhibition hall where each civilization would display their medical achievements. The exhibition hall was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness above them. Holographic displays showed the achievements of different species. The Zephyrians had created machines that could heal any wound in seconds. The Void Walkers had learned to manipulate time itself to reverse injuries. The Crystalline Collective could transfer a person's mind to a new body if their old one was damaged. The human section looked pathetic in comparison. They had brought basic surgical tools, some bottles of medicine, and a few pieces of equipment that looked ancient compared to the alien technology. Around them, other species were showing off healing rays that could regrow organs and devices that could cure diseases just by pointing them at a patient. A group of 6-eyed creatures stopped at the human display and started making sounds that the translator said were laughter. One of them picked up a simple scalpel and examined it like it was a curious antique. Another one looked at their antibiotics and made a comment about how primitive chemical treatments were. Tae-ho felt his face getting red, but he tried to stay calm. He had expected this reaction. Most alien species lived for hundreds or thousands of years and had technology that humans could barely understand. To them, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. Won-sik stood next to their display and watched the aliens with quiet interest. He did not seem bothered by their laughter or their dismissive comments. When a tall alien with tentacles for arms asked him through a translator what humans could possibly contribute to galactic medicine, Won-sik just shrugged and said they would see. The conference officially began with speeches from the most important alien doctors. Dr. Vextal, a Zephyrian, a physician, spoke about new techniques for cellular regeneration. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he demonstrated on a holographic patient, showing how damaged tissue could be restored to perfect health in minutes. Dr. Kristik from the Crystalline Collective showed how consciousness could be backed up and transferred between bodies. The audience was amazed as he demonstrated the process on a volunteer whose mind was copied into a crystal matrix and then placed into a new biological form. When it was time for the human presentation, Teho felt nervous. He walked to the podium and looked out at hundreds of alien faces, eyes, tentacles, and other sensory organs all focused on him. He talked about human medicine and how it focused on supporting the body's natural healing processes rather than replacing them. With technology, the alien audience listened politely, but he could tell they were not impressed. To them, human medicine seemed slow, inefficient, and unnecessarily complicated. Why would anyone use chemical drugs when you could use healing rays? Why perform surgery when you could just regrow the damaged part after the presentations? The conference moved to the tour section where different species could show off their most advanced medical facilities. The tour would take them through various sections of Nexus Prime, including areas where dangerous creatures were kept for medical. Researcher Jin was excited to see the alien medical equipment up close. She had always been curious about how other species approach surgery and healing. One Sikh seemed more interested in the practical applications of what they were seeing. He asked questions about how the alien treatments worked in emergency situations. The tour guide was a floating being that looked like a ball of light with a voice that sounded like wind chimes. It explained that they would be visiting the research sections where scientists studied diseases and injuries from across the galaxy. They would also see the containment areas where dangerous creatures were kept for medical research. As they walked through the corridors, Teho noticed that the human group was being treated differently than the other species. The alien doctors were polite but distant. They answered questions briefly and did not seem interested in having real conversations about medical techniques. The tour took them past laboratories where alien scientists worked with equipment that defied human understanding. They saw machines that could analyze diseases at the molecular level, and devices that could create new organs from nothing but raw materials. The humans took notes and asked questions, but they could tell the aliens thought they were wasting their time in one section. They observed a demonstration of void walker time manipulation technology. A patient with a severe injury was placed in a temporal field, and the injury was reversed by moving their personal timeline backward. The process took only minutes and left no trace that the injury had ever existed. Su Jin was fascinated by the precision of the alien surgical techniques. She watched as a Zephyrian doctor performed what would have been a 10-hour surgery on Earth in less than 30 minutes using tools that seemed to work by thought alone. The patient was conscious throughout the procedure and felt no pain. One Sikh paid more attention to the emergency protocols and disaster response systems. He wanted to understand how the aliens dealt with mass casualties and emergency situations. The alien medics seemed puzzled by his questions. They explained that their technology was so advanced that medical emergencies were rare. The tour was scheduled to end at the biological research section where scientists studied life forms from dangerous worlds. This was where they kept creatures that were too dangerous to exist in normal environments, but too valuable for medical research to destroy. As they approached the research section, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. The tour guide's light began flashing rapidly and its voice became urgent. There had been a containment breach in the predator section. All tour groups were advised to move to safe areas immediately, but they were too close to the danger zone to retreat safely. The tour guide made a decision that would change everything. It directed the group toward an emergency shelter that was closer than the main safe area. They would have to pass through part of the research section to reach it. As they hurried through the corridors, Teho could hear something moving behind the walls. The sound was like metal scraping against stone, mixed with a low hissing that made his skin crawl. The emergency lights cast strange shadows that seemed to move independently. They reached a large chamber filled with crystalline formations that served as both decoration and research equipment. The tour guide explained that they needed to cross this room to reach the emergency shelter. The formations were beautiful, but also provided many places for something dangerous to hide. Su Jin was in the middle of the group examining some of the alien medical equipment when the attack happened. The Nexus serpent struck without warning, its fangs sinking deep into her shoulder. Before anyone could react, the creature was beautiful in a terrifying way, with scales that shifted through every color imaginable, and eyes that seemed to look directly into a person's soul. But it's B. The moment Su Jin fell to the ground with the Nexus Serpent's fangs buried in her shoulder. Chaos erupted throughout the research chamber. Alien security forces materialized from hidden panels in the walls while emergency medical teams rushed toward the scene with equipment that glowed and hummed with advanced technology. Dr. Vextel arrived first, his four arms moving with practiced precision as he deployed scanning devices that looked like floating orbs of light. The Zephyrian physician had treated bite victims from the Nexus Serpent before, and his expression grew dark as the scanners began feeding him information about Sujin's condition. The Serpent had already been contained by security forces using energy nets that sparkled with electricity, but the damage was done. Sujin lay on the crystalline floor, her body trembling as the venom spread through her bloodstream. Her eyes were wide with shock and pain, but she remained conscious enough to understand what was happening around. Herdahon knelt beside his colleague and friend, trying to comfort her, while one Sikh immediately began checking her vital signs with their basic human medical equipment. The contrast between their simple tools and the alien technology surrounding them was stark, but one Sikh worked with calm efficiency. More alien doctors arrived within minutes. Dr. Kristik materialized in a shower of crystalline fragments, his body reforming from what looked like scattered diamonds. The crystalline collective physician began running scans with devices that projected holographic images of Sujin's internal systems, showing the venom's progress in real time. The readings were not good. The Nexus Serpent's venom was unlike anything found on Earth or most other worlds. It attacked the nervous system in multiple ways simultaneously, shutting down neural pathways while also disrupting cellular respiration and heart function. The toxin was designed by millions of years of evolution to kill quickly and efficiently. Dr. Vextel's scanners showed that the venom had already entered Sujin's lymphatic system and was spreading toward her brain. The alien physician's skin color shifted to deep purple, which Tejo's translator indicated was a sign of grave concern among Zephyrians. A group of Voidwalker medics appeared seemingly from nowhere, their shadow-like forms flickering as they examined Sujin with senses that could perceive multiple dimensions. The Voidwalkers were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to manipulate time and space, but even they seemed troubled by what they observed. One of the Voidwalkers spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through empty spaces. The translator converted his words into stark human language. The venom was spreading too quickly for even temporal manipulation to reverse. The damage was occurring faster than they could rewind time. Dr. Kristik's crystalline form flashed with different colors as he processed the data from his scans. His musical voice carried bad news. The toxin was already crossing the blood-brain barrier and would begin shutting down critical brain functions within minutes. Once that process started, nothing in the galaxy could stop it. The alien medics worked frantically with their advanced equipment. Energy beams swept over Sujin's body while molecular extractors tried to remove the venom from her system. Healing rays attempted to repair the damage being done to her cells, but the Nexus Serpent's toxin seemed to adapt to every treatment they treated. Tejo watched in growing desperation as the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy failed to help his friend. The alien doctors were doing everything they could, but their expressions and the colors of their various skin types all indicated the same thing. Sujin was dying. Dr. Vextel finally stopped his frantic scanning and looked at the human team with what might have been sympathy in his four eyes. The Zephyrian physician had seen this scenario play out many times before with members of various species who had encountered the Nexus Serpent. The diagnosis was final and absolute. No species in the galaxy had ever survived a full envenomation from a Nexus Serpent. The creature's venom was perfectly designed to kill, and it had never failed. The toxin attacked 17 different biological systems, simultaneously making it impossible to counter. Sujin had perhaps 20 minutes before complete system failure. Her heart would stop beating, her lungs would cease functioning, and her brain would shut down. The venom was already causing massive cellular damage throughout her body, and the process was accelerating. The other alien doctors nodded their various heads, tentacles, and other appendages in agreement with the diagnosis. They had seen species far more advanced than humans succumb to this same toxin. Beings with regenerative abilities that could regrow entire limbs in minutes had died from Nexus Serpent bites. Dr. Kristik's crystalline body chimed softly as he delivered the news to the human team. The sound was translated as condolence. The crystalline collective had advanced medical technology that could transfer consciousness between bodies, but even that would not work fast enough to save Sujin. Void walkers examined the temporal aspects of the situation and concluded that the venom's effects were spreading through time itself, making it impossible to reverse even if they could rewind Sujin's personal timeline. The toxin would simply reappear and continue its deadly work. As the alien doctors delivered their verdict, Sujin's condition continued to deteriorate. Her breathing became shallow and labored while her pulse grew weak and irregular. The venom was shutting down her autonomic nervous system and her body's natural regulatory functions were failing. Tejo felt helpless as he watched his friend dying before his eyes. The best medical minds in the galaxy had declared the situation hopeless. Their most advanced technology could not save her. The Nexus Serpent had claimed another victim. The alien medics began preparing for what they called the ceremony of passing, a ritual that honored the deceased and provided comfort to the survivors. They had performed this ceremony many times for victims of the Nexus Serpent, and they approached it with solemn professionalism. But one Sikh had been listening to the alien doctors with growing frustration. The quiet medic had dealt with deadly toxins before during his years working in Earth's most dangerous environments. He had seen people survive things that should have killed them, and he was not ready to give up when Dr. Vextal suggested they begin preparing for Sujin's death. One Sikh simply shrugged his shoulders. The gesture was universal enough that even the aliens understood it. He pointed to his basic medical kit, then to Sujin, then made a motion that indicated he intended to treat her. The aliens were confused by this response. Did this primitive human not understand the situation? Their most advanced scanners and healing devices had declared the case hopeless. What could his basic tools possibly accomplish against a toxin that had never been survived? Dr. Kristik's crystalline form flickered with what the translator indicated was puzzlement. The crystalline collective physician asked one Sikh if he understood that Sujin would die within minutes. The human medic nodded calmly and began opening his medical kit. The void walkers observed one Sikh's preparations with interest that transcended normal dimensions. They could see possibilities branching through time and space, but none of the timelines they observed showed Sujin surviving, yet the human medic seemed determined to try anyway. One Sikh ignored the alien doctors' protests and began working. His movements were calm and methodical as he prepared to treat a condition that the galaxy's most advanced medical technology could not cure. The aliens watched in fascination as this primitive human prepared to attempt the impossible. Sujin's eyes found one Sikh's face and she managed a weak smile. She had worked with him long enough to recognize his expression. This was the look he got when faced with an impossible medical situation. It was the same look that had saved hundreds of lives in Earth's most dangerous places. The alien doctors stepped back to give one Sikh room to work, but they continued monitoring Sujin's vital signs. With their advanced equipment, they wanted to document exactly what happened when human medicine failed against the Nexus Serpent's toxin. As one Sikh began his treatment, the aliens prepared to witness another confirmation of the serpent's deadly reputation. They had no idea they were about to see something that would change their understanding of medicine forever. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most primitive approach could achieve what the most advanced technology could not. One Sikh knelt beside Sujin and opened his medical kit while the alien doctors watched with a mixture of curiosity and pity. The human medic ignored their stares and began working with the same calm efficiency he had shown in countless emergency situations on Earth. His first move surprised the aliens completely. One Sikh pulled out a simple tourniquet and applied it above the bite side on Sujin's shoulder. The concept was so basic that the advanced alien medics had completely overlooked it. While their scanners could analyze the toxin down to individual molecules, they had forgotten the fundamental principle of stopping its spread. Dr. Vextal's 4 eyes widened as he realized what the human was doing. The Zephyrian physician had been so focused on using advanced healing technology that he had ignored the simplest solution. The tourniquet would not cure the envenomation, but it would slow the venom's progress through Sujin's circulatory system. The alien doctors began recalibrating their scanners and were amazed to see that the toxin spread had actually slowed. The primitive human technique was buying precious time that their advanced technology had failed to provide. One seeks. Next action made several aliens emit sounds that their translators interpreted as laughter. The human medic pulled out a small manual suction device that looked like a toy compared to the molecular extractors. The aliens had been using the device with simple plastic and rubber with no energy source or advanced components, but one Sikh knew something the aliens did not understand. He had dealt with venomous creature bites many times during his service in dangerous places on Earth. The principle of removing venom from a wound site was older than human civilization, but it remained effective. He placed the suction device over the bite marks and began manually extracting as much venom as possible from the wound. The aliens watched in fascination as this primitive technique actually began reducing the toxin levels in Sujin's system. Their molecular scanners showed measurable improvement. Christok's crystalline form chimed with what the translator indicated was surprise. The crystalline collective physician had been using energy fields to try to extract the venom, but the human's simple mechanical approach was proving more effective. Seek worked steadily drawing out venom while monitoring Sujin's condition with basic human medical equipment. His stethoscope was ancient compared to the alien scanning devices, but it told him everything he needed to know about her heart rate and breathing patterns. The alien doctors began to understand that they had been approaching the problem incorrectly. They had been trying to fight the toxin directly with their advanced technology, but the human was supporting his patient's natural biological processes instead. From his kit, one Sikh produced a collection of medicines that looked primitive compared to the aliens' healing rays and molecular reconstructors. He had epinephrine to counteract the cardiovascular effects of the venom, atropine to counter the neurological symptoms, and activated charcoal to absorb any toxins that might reach the digestive system. The alien medics had never seen chemical treatments like these. Their medicine relied on energy manipulation and molecular restructuring. The concept of using simple compounds to support biological functions was foreign to them, but they watched the results. With growing amazement, Sujin's vital signs began to stabilize under one Sikh's treatment. Her heart rate became more regular and her breathing improved. The tourniquet had slowed the venom spread while the suction had removed a significant amount of toxin from the wound site, but one Sikh's real advantage was his understanding of human biology. He knew that Sujin's body was already fighting the venom in ways the aliens could not detect or understand. Humans had evolved on a world where every creature, plant, and microorganism was potentially deadly. The human immune system was incredibly sophisticated compared to most alien species. It could adapt to new threats, analyze foreign substances, and develop countermeasures in real time. Sujin's body was already learning to neutralize the nexus. Serpent's venom. One Sikh administered 4 fluids to maintain her blood pressure and circulation. The aliens had complex machines that could regulate these functions, but the human's simple approach was proving equally effective. He gave her oxygen to support her breathing while her lungs worked to process the toxin. The alien doctors crowded around their scanning equipment as they watched something unprecedented happen. Sujin's biological systems were not just surviving the nexus. Serpent's venom, they were actually beginning to overcome it. Vextal's skin color shifted to bright yellow, which indicated extreme excitement among Zephyrians. His scanners showed that the human's liver was beginning to break down the alien toxin, treating it like any other poison. The process was slow, but it was working. Voida walkers were fascinated by the temporal aspects of what they were observing. They could see Sujin's timeline stabilizing and the probability of her death decreasing with each passing minute. The human medic was not just treating symptoms, he was buying time for her body to heal itself. One Sikh continued his methodical treatment, checking Sujin's pupils to assess neurological function, monitoring her pulse to ensure adequate circulation, and adjusting his medications based on her body's responses. The aliens realized they were witnessing a completely different approach to medicine. Instead of trying to replace biological functions with technology, one Sikh was supporting and enhancing Sujin's natural healing processes. He was working with her body systems Rather than trying to override them with external devices, the human medic's calm demeanor never changed even as he performed what the aliens considered to be a miracle. He checked Sujin's temperature, adjusted her flow rate, and continued monitoring her vital signs as if treating a Nexus serpent bite was just another day at work. Sujin remained conscious throughout the treatment, her eyes following Wonseek's movements with trust and gratitude. She could feel the venom's effects weakening as her body fought back, supported by his simple but effective medical care. The alien doctors began asking Wonseek questions about his treatment methods, but he remained focused on his patient. He answered briefly while continuing to work, explaining that human medicine was based on supporting natural biological processes rather than replacing them. As the hours passed, Sujin's condition continued to improve. The alien scanner showed the toxin levels in her blood decreasing as her liver metabolized the foreign compounds. Her kidney function remained stable as the organs filtered out the breakdown products. The Nexus serpent's venom, which had killed members of dozens of advanced species, was being defeated by basic human medicine and the incredible adaptability of human biology. The galaxy was witnessing something that would change their understanding of healing forever. Wonseek's approach was proving that sometimes the most effective treatment was the simplest one. He had not used any advanced technology or exotic healing methods. Instead, he had applied basic medical principles that humans had developed over thousands of years of dealing with dangerous creatures. The alien doctors realized they had been so focused on developing advanced technology that they had forgotten the fundamental principles of medicine. The human was showing them that the most important factor in healing was not the sophistication of the equipment, but the understanding of how life itself worked. Sujin's recovery was becoming undeniable. The bite that should have killed her within minutes was becoming just another challenge that human resilience and adaptability could overcome. The aliens were learning that sometimes the most primitive species could teach the most advanced civilizations new ways to heal. As Wonseek continued his treatment, something extraordinary began to happen that defied everything the alien doctors thought they knew about medicine. Sujin's condition was not just stabilizing, it was actually improving. Her vital signs, which had been crashing toward zero, started to level out and then began showing signs of genuine recovery. Dr. Vextal stared at his scanning equipment in disbelief. The Zephyrian physician had witnessed hundreds of Nexus serpent attacks over his long career and had never seen anything like this. The human should have been dead an hour ago, but instead she was fighting back against a toxin that had killed beings far more advanced than her species. The alien medic ran his scanners over Sujin's body again, and again convinced that his equipment was malfunctioning. The readings showed that the toxin's advance had not just stopped, but was actually reversing in some areas. Her body was breaking down the venom faster than it could spread. Dr. Christhuk's crystalline form flickered through a spectrum of colors that the translator indicated represented extreme confusion. The crystalline collective physician had used molecular extractors that could remove toxins at the atomic level, but the human's simple suction device had been more effective. On the medical chamber, more alien doctors were arriving as word spread about the impossible situation. A human was surviving a Nexus serpent bite using primitive medicine that looked like toys compared to galactic medical technology. The implications were staggering. A group of ethereal healers materialized from pure energy, their forms shimmering as they examined Sujin with senses that could perceive life force itself. They confirmed what the other aliens were seeing. The humans' biological systems were not just surviving, they were adapting and overcoming. Wonseek remained focused on his patient, but he could sense the growing excitement among the alien observers. He continued his methodical treatment, checking Sujin's responses and adjusting his medications based on her body's feedback. His calm professionalism contrasted sharply with the chaos around them. Taeho watched his colleague work with growing pride and amazement. The quiet medic was accomplishing something that the galaxy's most advanced medical technology could not achieve. He was saving a life that every alien doctor had declared. Hapila Sujin's eyes were clearer now, and she was able to respond to simple questions. Her speech was still slurred from the neurological effects of the venom, but her cognitive function was returning. The aliens crowded around their instruments, documenting every aspect of her Recovery Dr. Vextel finally spoke, his voice carrying a mixture of awe and confusion. The Zephyrian physician explained that, according to all known medical science, Sujin should have died within 30 minutes of the bite. Instead, she was not only alive but showing signs of complete recovery. The alien doctors began to understand that they had been thinking about the problem incorrectly. They had been trying to use their advanced technology to directly counter the venom's effects, but the human was doing something completely different. One Seek was not fighting the toxin, he was supporting Sujin's natural biological processes and allowing her body to fight the venom itself. The concept was revolutionary to species that had become dependent on technology to solve medical problems. The human immune system was revealing itself to be far more sophisticated than the aliens had realized. Sujin's white blood cells were adapting to the alien toxin, learning to recognize and neutralize the foreign proteins. Her liver was breaking down the venom into harmless compounds that her kidneys could eliminate. Dr. Christuk's musical voice carried wonder as he explained what his scanners were showing. The human cellular repair mechanisms were working at a level that rivaled the most advanced nanotechnology. Her body was literally rebuilding itself while fighting off the toxin. The Voidwalkers were fascinated by the temporal aspects of Sujin's recovery. They could see her timeline stabilizing and extending far into the future. The probability of her death had dropped to almost zero, despite the fact that she had been exposed to a universally fatal toxin. As the alien doctors watched Sujin's recovery, they began to realize that humans were not the primitive species they had assumed. Human biology was incredibly resilient and adaptive, shaped by millions of years of evolution on a world filled with deadly creatures. One Seek's treatment was not primitive, it was evolved. He was using medical techniques that had been refined over centuries of dealing with venomous creatures, poisonous plants, and deadly diseases. His simple tools were actually more effective than the aliens' advanced technology. The human medic explained his approach to the fascinated alien audience. He described how human medicine focused on supporting the body's natural healing processes rather than replacing them with external technology. The concept was foreign to most alien species, but the results spoke for themselves. Sujin's neurological function was returning to normal as her brain found new pathways around the damaged areas. The venom had caused significant neural damage, but her nervous system was adapting and compensating. The aliens watched in amazement as her motor skills and cognitive abilities improved. Her cardiovascular system was also recovering as her heart muscle adapted to the stress of the toxin. The alien doctors had expected complete cardiac failure, but Sujin's heart was beating strongly and regularly. Her circulation was improving as her blood vessels recovered from the venom's effects. The respiratory effects of the toxin were also being overcome as Sujin's lungs found ways to maintain adequate oxygen exchange. The aliens had predicted respiratory failure, but her breathing was becoming deeper and more regular. Dr. Vextel's scanners showed that Sujin's cellular regeneration was accelerating. Her body was not just surviving the venom, it was using the challenge to become stronger. The stress of fighting the toxin was actually improving her immune system's ability to handle future threats. The alien doctors began to understand that they had been approaching medicine from the wrong direction. They had focused on developing technology to replace biological functions, but humans had learned to enhance and support those functions. Instead, One Seek's success was not just about his medical skills, it was about his understanding of human biology. He knew that Sujin's body was capable of incredible feats of adaptation and survival. He just needed to give it time and support while it did what evolution had designed it to do. The implications of Sujin's recovery were staggering for the galactic medical community. Everything they thought they knew about the Nexus Serpent's toxin had been proven wrong by one human who refused to die. As Sujin continued to improve, the alien doctors realized they were witnessing the beginning of a new era in galactic medicine. The species they had dismissed as primitive was teaching them that sometimes the most advanced technology could not replace the wisdom of working with life itself. The human approach to medicine was not about conquering disease with technology, it was about understanding and supporting the incredible healing power that existed within every living being. Sujin's recovery was proof that this ancient wisdom was more powerful than any machine. The galaxy was about to learn that evolution had already created the most advanced Medical technology in the universe, it was called life itself, and humans had never forgotten how to work with it. 6 hours after the Nexus serpent's bite, Sujin was sitting up and asking for water. The transformation was so complete that some of the alien doctors wondered if they had imagined the entire crisis. The human who should have died within 30 minutes was not only alive but showing every sign of complete recovery. Wan-Sik never left her side during those crucial hours, constantly monitoring her progress and adjusting his treatment as her body responded to the toxin. He checked her temperature every 15 minutes, monitored her heart rate and blood pressure, and watched for any signs that the venom might be making a comeback. The alien doctors had given up trying to understand what they were witnessing and instead focused on documenting everything. Their scanners recorded every aspect of Sujin's recovery, creating a medical database that would be studied for generations to come. To Arvextal's excitement was so intense that his skin color had locked into bright yellow, a sign among Zephyrians of extreme scientific fascination. His forearms moved constantly as he operated multiple scanning devices, simultaneously trying to capture every detail of the impossible recovery. The Zephyrian physician discovered that Sujin's liver was not just breaking down the toxin, it was actually creating antibodies that could neutralize the venom. Her immune system had learned to recognize the alien proteins and was producing countermeasures that could protect her from future Nexus serpent attacks. Tr Christhak's crystalline form was chiming constantly with musical notes that indicated amazement the crystalline collective physician had never seen. Biological adaptation happened so quickly. Sujin's cellular structure was actually improving as a result of fighting the toxin. The bite wound itself was healing with remarkable speed. The alien doctors expected to see tissue death and necrosis, but instead they observed healthy regeneration. The venom had initially caused severe damage, but Sujin's body was rebuilding the affected area stronger than before. Sujin's neurological recovery was perhaps the most impressive aspect of her healing. The Nexus serpent's toxin had attacked her nervous system, causing widespread damage that should have resulted in permanent disability. Instead, her brain was finding new pathways around the damaged areas. The human nervous system's ability to adapt and rewire itself was far superior to anything the aliens had encountered. Sujin's motor skills were returning to normal, her speech was clearing up, and her cognitive function was actually testing higher than her baseline measurements. Wan-Sik explained to the fascinated alien audience that human brains were incredibly plastic and could reorganize themselves in response to injury. The concept was revolutionary to species that relied on technology to repair neurological damage. Void walkers were particularly interested in the temporal aspects of Sujin's recovery. They could see her timeline stabilizing and extending far into the future. The probability threads that had shown her death were disappearing, replaced by outcomes that showed a long and healthy life. As Sujin continued to improve, more alien medical personnel arrived to witness the unprecedented event. Word had spread throughout Nexus Prime that a human had survived a Nexus serpent bite using primitive medicine. The medical community was in chaos as their fundamental assumptions were challenged. A delegation of high healers from the Galactic Medical Council arrived to investigate the situation. These ancient beings had seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations and had never encountered anything like Sujin's recovery. They examined her with instruments that could perceive life itself. The high healers confirmed what the other alien doctors had observed. The human was not just surviving, she was thriving. The challenge of fighting the toxin had actually strengthened her biological systems in ways that their advanced technology could not replicate. Sujin's immune system was now more robust than before the bite. Her cellular regeneration was accelerated, her neurological function was enhanced, and her overall health was better than it had been in years. The toxin that should have killed her had instead made her stronger. The alien doctors began to understand that they had been approaching medicine from a fundamentally flawed perspective. They had assumed that technology was superior to biology, but the human's recovery proved that natural healing processes were more powerful than any machine. Wan-Sik's treatment had not cured Sujin, he had simply supported her body's natural ability to heal itself. The tourniquets, suction device, and basic medications had bought time for her biological systems to adapt and overcome the Toxin the human medic began explaining his philosophy to the gathered alien physicians. He described how human medicine had evolved alongside human biology, developing treatments that worked with natural processes rather than against them. The concept of supporting rather than replacing biological functions was revolutionary to the alien medical community. They had spent millennia developing technology to do what living systems could already do, but they had forgotten the wisdom of working with life itself. Sujin's recovery was accelerating as her body finished processing the toxin. Her liver had broken down the venom into harmless compounds, her kidneys had filtered out the waste products, and her immune system had created permanent protection against future exposures. The bite site was healing so cleanly that it would leave only a small scar. The alien doctors had expected massive tissue damage, but Sujin's healing was so efficient that it seemed almost supernatural to beings who relied on technology for regeneration. By the 8th hour after the bite, Sujin was walking around the medical chamber, talking normally and showing no signs of the trauma she had endured. The alien doctors ran test after test, but could find no evidence that she had ever been poisoned. The transformation was complete. The human who should have died from the galaxy's most feared toxin was healthier than she had been before the attack. The implications for galactic medicine were staggering. Dr. Vextel's final scans showed that Sujin's biological systems were functioning at peak efficiency. Her brain activity was enhanced, her immune system was supercharged, and her cellular regeneration was accelerated. The toxin had inadvertently given her what amounted to a biological upgrade. The alien doctors realized they were witnessing the birth of a new medical paradigm. The species they had dismissed as primitive was showing them that the most advanced healing technology in the universe was not built in laboratories, but evolved over millions of years. Sujin's recovery was proof that biological systems were far more sophisticated than any artificial technology. Her body had not just survived the impossible, it had used the challenge to become stronger and more resilient. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most primitive approach was actually the most advanced. Human medicine was not backward, it was evolved, and the aliens were about to become the students of the species they had once considered too primitive to teach. One Seek's quiet confidence had been justified. The human medic had known something the aliens did not, that life itself was the greatest healer, and all medicine had to do was support and enhance the incredible power that existed within every living being. As Sujin prepared to leave the medical chamber, the alien doctors knew they were witnessing history. The impossible had become possible, and the galaxy would never look at medicine the same way again. The news of Sujin's recovery spread through the galactic medical conference like wildfire. Within hours, every alien species at the gathering knew that a human had survived a Nexus serpent bite using primitive medicine. The impossible had become possible, and the entire conference was transformed. Dr. Tejo found himself summoned to address the full assembly of alien physicians. The conference hall was packed with beings from across the galaxy, all eager to understand how humans had accomplished what their advanced technology could not. The atmosphere was electric with excitement and confusion. The human medical team walked onto the stage to face thousands of alien doctors who had previously dismissed them as primitive, the same beings who had laughed at their simple surgical tools and basic medicines now looked at them with respect and intense curiosity. Tejo approached the podium with Sujin beside him, showing no signs of her ordeal except for a small bandage on her shoulder. The alien audience fell silent as they stared at the human who should have been dead, the living proof that their medical understanding was incomplete. The Korean physician began his presentation by explaining that human medicine was based on a simple principle, working with biology rather than against it. He described how humans had evolved alongside dangerous creatures and had learned to enhance their natural healing abilities. The alien doctors listened with fascination as Tejo explained that humans did not see disease and injury as enemies to be conquered with technology. Instead, they viewed them as challenges that the body was designed to overcome with proper support and time. Sujin took the stage to demonstrate human surgical techniques that amazed the alien observers. Her hands moved with precision that came from years of practice, but more importantly, her decisions were guided by intuition developed through understanding how living systems worked. The human surgeon showed the aliens how to work with the body's natural processes rather than replacing them. She demonstrated surgical techniques that enhanced healing rather than forcing it and explained how human doctors had learned to trust biological systems. Swansea remained quiet during most of the presentation, but when asked to explain his treatment of Sujin, he spoke with simple eloquence. The human medic described how he had supported her body's natural ability to fight the toxin rather than trying to remove it with technology. The alien doctors asked hundreds of questions about human medical techniques. They wanted to understand how a species with such basic technology could achieve results that their advanced healing devices could not. The answers challenged everything they thought they knew about medicine. Dr. Vextel stood to address the assembly, his forearms gesturing as he spoke about the implications of Sujin's recovery. The Zephyrian physician explained that humans had shown them a fundamental truth about healing that they had forgotten in their pursuit of advanced technology. The alien medic described how human medicine was not primitive but evolved. Humans had developed treatments that worked with natural biological processes because they had never lost touch with the basic principles of how life worked. Dr. Chrislick's crystalline form chimed with musical notes as he confirmed Dr. Vextel's observations. The crystalline collective physician had analyzed Sujin's recovery in detail and found that her body's healing was more sophisticated than their most advanced nanotechnology. The Voidwalkers spoke about the temporal aspects of human healing. They had observed that humans existed in perfect harmony with the flow of time, allowing their bodies to heal at the natural pace rather than trying to accelerate or reverse biological processes. The presentation continued. The alien doctors began to understand that they had been approaching medicine from the wrong direction. They had assumed that technology was superior to biology, but humans had proven that natural systems were more powerful than any machine. The conference was transformed from a gathering where advanced species shared their technology to one where they learned from the wisdom of human medicine. The aliens realized that they had much to learn from the species they had previously dismissed. Requests for medical exchange programs began pouring in from across the galaxy. Alien species wanted to establish human medical schools on their worlds and send their doctors to Earth to learn human techniques. The demand was overwhelming. The Galactic Medical Council made an unprecedented announcement. They were requesting that humans establish teaching hospitals throughout the galaxy to share their medical philosophy with other species. The Council recognized that human medicine represented a new paradigm in healing. Wansik became the most sought-after instructor in galactic medicine. Despite his quiet demeanor and simple approach, his principle of supporting the body, trusting natural processes, and never giving up became the foundation of a new medical philosophy. The human medic found himself teaching alien doctors how to use basic techniques that their advanced technology had made them forget. The simple tourniquet that he had used to save Sujin became a standard treatment across dozens of species. Sujin's recovery had proven that biological systems were far more sophisticated than any artificial technology. Her body had not just survived the impossible, it had used the challenge to become stronger. The aliens wanted to understand how to work with this power. The conference ended with a complete reversal of the original dynamic. Instead of humans learning from advanced alien medicine, the galaxy was learning from human wisdom. The species that had seemed most primitive was teaching the most advanced civilizations. Human medical techniques began spreading across the galaxy as alien doctors learned to work with biology rather than against it. The concept of supporting natural healing processes revolutionized medicine for hundreds of species. The simple principle that Wansik had demonstrated became known as the human approach to medicine. It emphasized understanding biological systems, supporting natural processes, and never giving up even when advanced technology declared a situation hopeless. Hospitals across the galaxy began incorporating human medical techniques into their treatment protocols. The combination of advanced alien technology with human wisdom created a new era of healing that was more effective than either approach alone. The Nexus serpent bite that should have killed Sujin had instead become the catalyst for a medical revolution. The galaxy learned that sometimes the most advanced approach was to trust the wisdom of life itself. As the human medical team prepared to return to Earth, they carried with them requests From hundreds of species for continued collaboration, the galaxy wanted to learn from humanity not because of their technology, but because of their understanding. The conference had proven that evolution had already created the most advanced medical system in the universe. It was called life, and humans had never forgotten how to work with it. The aliens were eager to rediscover this ancient wisdom. The bite that was supposed to be fatal had instead become the beginning of a new chapter in galactic medicine, where the most primitive species taught the most advanced civilizations that sometimes the oldest wisdom was the most powerful human. Medicine was no longer seen as backward or primitive. Instead, it was recognized as evolved and sophisticated. The galaxy had learned that true medical advancement came not from replacing biological systems, but from understanding and enhancing them. Years later, the story of Sujin's recovery became legendary throughout the galaxy. Medical students from hundreds of species learned about the human who survived the unsurvivable and the quiet medic who refused to accept defeat. The tale inspired a generation of healers to look beyond technology and rediscover the power of life itself. The human medical team returned to Earth as heroes, but they remained humble about their achievement. They knew that Sujin's recovery was not just about human medicine, but about the incredible resilience that existed within all living beings. Wansi continued his work as a field medic, but now he was also a teacher. His simple approach to medicine spread across the galaxy, inspiring alien doctors to trust in the healing power of natural biological processes. The quiet human who had just shrugged and pointed had changed medicine forever. The Nexus serpent's bite had been intended to kill, but instead it had given birth to a new understanding of healing. The galaxy learned that sometimes the most powerful medicine was not found in the most advanced laboratories, but in the ancient wisdom of working with life itself. The conference on Nexus Prime became known as the turning point when the galaxy rediscovered that evolution had already created the most sophisticated medical technology in the universe. It existed within every living being, and humans had never forgotten how to access its power. Sujin kept the small scar from the serpent's bite as a reminder of the day that changed galactic medicine forever. The mark that should have been a symbol of death instead became a sign of hope, proving that life could overcome any challenge when given proper support. And understanding the human approach to medicine became the standard across the galaxy, not because it was more advanced than alien technology, but because it was more wise. The species that had seemed most primitive had taught the most advanced civilizations the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest strength came not from fighting against nature, but from working with it. The galaxy had learned that true healing happened when medicine supported the incredible power that life carried within itself, and humans had shown them that this power was strong.